Awesome. So if you're not aware, Arthur, the name on the website says Kratos Defense, right? And that gets a lot of people freaked out. The three of us come from Kratos Space, which is the second largest division of the company, and we're entirely focused on product. So we build commercial and government products alike, sell them internationally, except to a couple countries that we're not allowed to. But other than that, we're a products-based part of a larger defense contractor. I'm going to talk about what's going on in space, but you live it every day, so you'll know that. Talk a little bit about stuff you probably already heard about with regard to Ops Center and open space in general, and then we'll get to the real meat of the presentation, which is how we're using all the cool tools from SUSE and our partnership with RGS to manage the life cycle of our OpenEdge, which Kevin's responsible for as a product manager. I know I'm not going to be nearly as entertaining as the artist this afternoon or this morning, and I also know that I'm the only thing between us and dinner. So here comes the rest of the gang.
Can we sell your slides for $10,000?
You can't. But I know I'm going to be quick because it's a friendly audience, and I know I'm not as entertaining as the artist. Although if I would have brought my guitar, we could have done this to song and dance, which probably would have been interesting. So for those of you that are kind of new to Kratos and specifically open space, why? Because it's a time of disruption and there's no better opportunity to make money than in a time of disruption. I'll just be blunt about it, right? We've got satellites that get launched almost every day that are half the size and 3 or 4 times the payload of what's up there today. They fly around in different levels of constellation, different levels of orbit. We've got everything that's gone on in the telco around network virtualization that is just begging to be brought to the satellite industry. And then we've got a whole bunch of new people like our friend Arthur and Ravada in that space that are creating opportunity, right? So what is the magic of open space? Well, it starts with the only piece of hardware in the system, which is a digitizer, right? And the job of the digitizer is simply to take what would be RF signals out here that you see on a scanner, right? The nice bumps and waves, and turn them into IP packets. Once we do that, we're back in the virtual world. So we could process that signal, whether we're doing our space to ground type mission where we're recording data, whether we're doing spacecraft control over command and control links, or whether we're providing a SATCOM network, and that's where the OpenEdge comes in a little bit, as well as doing what we call signals analysis or space domain awareness. So the key is that the open space platform is entirely virtual, and that we use Kubernetes as well as our controller to orchestrate those virtual workloads to deliver the functionality or deliver dynamic services. Why is this important? Because the point I'm making about what we're doing with the life cycle of the edge is to save the costs of what has to be done to maintain today's equipment. Today, this is done over purpose-built hardware, racks and racks of modems. If there's a modem on an oil rig, which you'll see later, somebody has to fly there. That's expensive. It's more expensive than flying to Berlin direct from the States, okay? And customers don't want to do that, especially when our selling point is we're telling them you can change out all of your modems for a few pieces of physical compute based on x86 and Intel processors, and we're going to do all the work that those purpose-built boxes did for you. We've been making digitizers for 15 years. We've been building purpose-built, what I would call command and control modems for as long, maybe about half that time. What we haven't been doing is bringing that to the comms market, though. So everything we've been doing has been very tactically focused, communicating with the satellite to change orbit, to crash in a good spot, let's say, to change power levels, those types of things. By bringing it into the comms market, we're going to more than make up what we're cannibalizing. Okay. So for those of you who don't know SATCOM, it all starts with stuff. The only thing you can see is the antennas on the ground. It's all invisible. The way we do it, I mentioned we've got a digitizer. That's our SpecNet product. This is the only physical piece of equipment in the rack or in the world for us. It's a 1RU box that takes in some level of bandwidth. In Arthur's case, we're probably talking about 500 megahertz or more of bandwidth. And then we run that through our stuff running on x86 compute, whether that's doing channelization or combination, typical RF plumbing, right? Stuff that's done with racks and racks of RF switches and connectors today, or whether it's actually building the modems back here towards the left side of the network. What I'm really going to focus on is the OpenEdge terminal, because none of this works from a SATCOM perspective without that box on the edge. And the goal of our OpenEdge box is not only to be a SATCOM solution, so if you're from the States, you've got Xfinity or Verizon, and you've got a purpose-built cable modem or a purpose-built Fios modem in your house. This is the same thing, except it's running on a server or a laptop or what have you in your home that could provide you access to the wider network. In our case, we focus on a little bit larger enterprise scale customers, but we'll talk about that. And then we connect you from that terminal through this virtualized data center, which can be on-prem or in the public cloud, back to the core of the network, right? So that's what we're trying to do. And what tools do we use from our friends at SUSE and Rancher? Well, just about everything they offer. I was making the joke before some of you walked in, we were Edge 1.0 before there was SUSE Edge 1.0. All the same tools, right? Rancher Multi-Cluster Manager is our visualization and our hub for looking at all the clusters that are out there, whether they're in the core of the network in the data center or out on the edge. So I was really excited to learn about the Rancher visualizations that are coming up and planned, because that's going to be huge for us. We're RKE2 and a mix of K3S on the edge, depending on our customer clientele. You could probably pick when we will go to RKE2, when our customers want a really hardened solution. We're Longhorn, we're Fleet, and now we've added Elemental to that mix. So we'll talk more about that. What are the benefits of this partnership? I'll be the first one to tell you Kratos Space engineering guys are the most brilliant digital signal processing minds there are. These guys can take C and C++ code, build waveforms, parse waveforms, understand interference, all kinds of great stuff. We are not Kubernetes experts. So when I was lucky enough to get into this role, I've been at Kratos 22 years. When I got into this role 3 years ago, the first thing I said is, we need Kubernetes help. And reached out to the folks at Rancher and got in touch with RGS, and it's been great ever since. For us, it's about the security of the RKE2 platform, the security of the software supply chain given our government customers, and like I just said, the ability to focus on our core competencies. We don't want to worry about upgrading Kubernetes. We don't want to worry about automating things like the life cycle of software management on the edge. We want people who do that for a living to help us do it, so we can focus on our core business, right? We do need to support multiple platforms, whether it's public cloud, various hypervisors, or our favorite bare metal. And the greatest thing about it is it's been a really innovative relationship. We come up with a problem, you guys come up with a solution, and we're able to piece it and put it into our infrastructure. So let's talk about this OpenEdge terminal. Just build this out. The cool thing about it is it's exactly that. If you're in the industry today, what you'll know is when I buy a modem from iDirect, it works with iDirect in the back end. When I buy a modem from Galat, it works with Galat in the back end. I can't hook an iDirect modem to a Galat platform, vice versa. Open is entirely for that purpose. I don't care if we write the modem. I don't care if somebody else writes the modem software and puts it on our edge. The idea that this is a place where we could build an ecosystem, gather different applications, whether they're the core of the technology or whether they're value add, is the key piece, right? So for us, it's about creating that ecosystem and creating that platform, and that's what you guys have helped us do so effectively. So here's how it works. We come down from the sky and a signal we can't see. It hits any antenna, we don't care whose. It goes into a digitizer, and I'll tell you, Kevin would be ecstatic if you were buying his OpenEdge digitizer, right, that plugs in as a PCI card into a server. He'd be thrilled, but he'd be about half as thrilled if you bought somebody else's digitizer and handed us the signal just the same, okay? So that digitizer turns that RF signal into IP packets. It comes into a virtual modem. But the nice part about this is, like I said, that modem used to be a physical box about 1 RU, and if you had 7 connections in a room, you probably had 7 RU of boxes. And then you had your favorite router, your favorite switch, your favorite firewall, your mission applications, whatever else you wanted stacked up, right? If you had TCP acceleration, that was another box. If you had intrusion detection, yet another box. The anatomy of the OpenEdge allows us to put any of these virtualized functions, SD-WAN, acceleration, on the same box with us, right? So we size the boxes appropriately for where we're going, make sure there's room for customers to add their stuff. We sell the service providers, so the same folks that you guys talk about telco OpenEdge with are our customers as well, right? And our goal is to have them put their value add applications on here as well. So if we sell to your mom's favorite satellite provider, I don't want to say the name in public, get in trouble, right? They could put their value-added applications on here, just like your iPhone from Verizon comes with the Verizon apps, right? So what does this thing look like? I'm going to use Kevin's favorite term. It's a fully disaggregated software platform. It's literally a small server. It looks like that with a little switch plugged into it. Kevin adds this cool thing from his product, from one of our hardware product teams. It's a sled that plugs in via PCI, right? And then we run SLE micro. We're a little bit behind on 5.2. We run K3S or RKE2, and we put our modem on top of it, right? I could stick whatever other workloads I want along the top and do that at the customer site. Our customer service provider or the end user can do it as well. All right, so here's the sauce. So for us, like I said, the big problem that we're trying to solve is not only what we call day zero provisioning, right? Allowing somebody on Arthur's team the most simple way to stand up one of these edges and provision them and maintain them, but to allow us a repeatable process, right? And something we're guaranteed of the configuration for. So what do we do today? We use Rancher and Elemental, and essentially we create a bootable ISO image based on SLE micro that we put on a USB or in a Pixie boot network, right? And we stick that, and I've got a live demo that I could show a little bit later on. Stick that USB into that box, right? It builds out the SLE micro, talks back to Rancher to get Kubernetes provisioned, and with a little automation magic, actually drops our modem and our management application on top of that as well. This is important for us because we're not the ones doing this. That box is OEM'd, right? We ship that company our digitizers, they put that together. The box ends up at somebody like your favorite service provider's warehouse, and Bob, who's used to racking and stacking satellite modems, is now in charge of making this work. So the fact that he could stick a USB in, reboot, get ready is very important. From there, this is the real special sauce. That's probably the last time in our marketplace. Some customers are easier to get to than others, but you don't necessarily put satellite where you've got all kinds of other connectivity. You put it in places that you don't get to a lot. So a typical customer for us is a cruise ship. Even they're a little bit different. They're a floating data center. They pull in to a port and they're back on a terrestrial network. But that oil rig, once I fly out there once and drop off the modem, I don't want to go back. So now I've got this box that's got a basic image on it, right? It's got our K3S SLE micro. It's got our modem. It's the OpenEdge. We've dropped it off. While the installer is there, it's his job to create connectivity up and running. So he builds the satellite connection with a config file from our gateway that says, here's what frequencies and power you talk on, generates a connection, and the first thing that happens is it establishes what we call an over-the-air channel. That's that orange line in the middle. And what that allows us to do is all the cool cloud-native stuff that no one else can do. So we bring that under cluster management in Rancher. We're able to determine what versions of software are on there. To Arthur's point, even if it was built with 5.2, now I can send software updates via fleet and elemental images down to that modem and have it reboot and come up in SLES 6, Micro 6.0 or 6.1, right? This is important because, yes, I've got an installer there and I could do all that day one, and then ultimately what the user cares about is that maroon line that goes off to the core of the network. But what happens 5 days from now when all of a sudden the service provider says, hey, I got a brand new widget that'll accelerate your network by a factor of 30%. For $5 extra a month, you can get that 30% increase. Well, that would be great, right? But if I had to fly a helicopter out there, right, I'm going to lose more than $5 a month, right? I'm eating the cost of that ride, that install, and it's going to take our customer, the satellite provider, probably a year to recoup what he just flew, the mission he just flew to drop an installer. So for us, the magic is about Rancher and Fleet being able to use those tools to control our OpenEdge and do updates, whether that's on our applications, our value-added applications. So that's the real summary. So what's the big deal? Again, it's the cost savings of being able to, in an industry that's still focused primarily on purpose-built hardware, be able to not only provide services in a cloud-native way, but be able to maintain those services in a cloud-native way and reduce the cost of going to the site. Sometimes it's not an oil rig, okay? It could be a disaster zone, right? We just did while I'm here, we have a demo running for a telemanagement forum where we're doing private 5G uplink from a disaster zone, providing satellite connectivity back. Again, I don't want to be in the disaster zone updating software if I could avoid it, right? So there's all types of permutations and benefits of this. And I just got to say, I'm really thrilled with the direction of SUSE Edge because, well, it's this. It's exactly this, which is exactly what we need. So I'm done.